All right, can you guys hear us all the way in the back? Good?
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. So yeah, we'll just talk a little bit about our kind of what we're up to and our story with Joe, and then answer some of these questions. So me and Devin, we both started about the same time. Is that 5 years ago now?
Yeah, I was 4 years in June, and then it'll be 5 years for you in this November. So about 6-7 months apart from each other in our franchises. So
we both worked for Mark and Cody doing acquisitions for them back when they were starting the franchise, and then we both bought our own franchises. I'm in Salt Lake, and he's in Florida.
Yep.
And so we've been doing our own thing for about 5 years now, and then we just recently merged our operations. So now we're all of Utah and all of South Florida.
So Joe and I have collaborated quite a bit over the years. Like I said, we worked together, gained a friendship, helped each other get better at acquisitions, leveraged Mark and Cody, and realized that we both wanted to grow. So Joe took the jump first and started his franchise, and I started mine, and we've just connected, continually talking ideas. I go into his office every once in a while because I was living in Salt Lake. I've been doing virtual the last 4 years. And then Joe brought up about 5 months ago that he's wanting to expand into a different market. And we had an opportunity to buy out one of our franchisees in South Florida for Fort Lauderdale and Miami. His franchise didn't succeed. And I was in West Palm Beach. I'm like, man, why don't we just open up those two markets? And so then we just decided to see, we went over our predictive indexes. We sat down with Mark, sat down with Vance, and saw where our strengths really kind of complement each other, and obviously just being vulnerable, seeing where our weaknesses are. And so we chose to partner, and it's been a really good experience the last few months. It's been very challenging. For those that already have partnerships, you realize what frustrates you more, what you like about the person, what you don't like. And so you're just trying to have those tough conversations right out the gate so that we can create a cohesive environment and build a good business and build good operating procedures. So we've both been on our own for about 5 years, doing about $1 million and a half a year. And now we're just looking to kind of take it to the next level. But we'll answer some of those questions that they asked and see if there's anything of value. So first thing, what's our unique strategy and approach that sets us apart? So a couple of things that I had was, number one, our sales team really embodies home buying specialist, so really the fundamentals with the acquisitions and the sales process. Like for me, it's always just been like, hey, we really want to do these things better than anybody. So there's the things that Mark and Joe Homebuyer teaches, just with being the authority, establishing a relationship of trust, right time method, getting all decision makers, like all the really simple things, right? Like I can't tell you how many times it's like, I could talk to anybody and just say, hey, like, what's going on with the appointment? And they're like, yeah, did you get the authentic? Yes. Yeah, you did. Okay, were all the decision makers there? No, I don't know, right? So for us, it's just, I think the number one thing is just that we really try to do is just be better than anybody at the fundamentals of the acquisitions. So I'd say that was the first thing, is just training on that. I really love what Gorius and his team were just talking about, like 6 hours a week of just training on the fundamentals. Like, to me, I felt like that we're really good at it, and that's a next level thing, is just training every single day on that. So I would say just the fundamentals of the sales process, and then one thing that I say too is we tell all sellers, like, hey, we're going to be your best option, we're going to provide the most value, and we're going to do what we say we do, and we actually believe that. So I think that's just one thing, is just really having that mindset. Anything else you'd say that kind of is a competitive advantage for us? Yeah, so when I stepped in with Joe, I always knew he was a really good negotiator, but what Joe has done really well is he's been his integrity and his authenticity and his transparency. Like when he sits down with sellers, he tells them exactly what's going on. Like I feel like a lot of wholesalers in our industry are the car salesmen of sales within real estate. But Joe has been extremely good at being transparent. Say, look, we might hand off your property to another investor. We're going to get it out on our list. And what's been an advantage is Joe's built a very good relationship with not only with the sellers, but with the buyers, because he's blasting the deals on the dispo end for our contract price. So that's been a really good experience for me, because being virtual, it's kind of given me a limiting beliefs in certain ways, to where it's like, I don't want to tell these people I'm wholesaling it, but I say we're going to have investors come take a look at the property, but Joe's ability to be transparent and how it's translated within not only the Utah operation, but in Florida now, to where that open dialogue with sellers, people want to work with us, not because we're the highest offer or giving them the most money, but because of that transparency and trying to provide service. And one of the things that we've been doing that I've noticed, Joe is very good at saying, hey, look, we're exhausting efforts on getting the property for as cheap as possible. So we can wholesale it, get a 30, 40, 50K assignment fee, move on to the next property. And then incorporating my skill set to where I'm very good at coming up with strategic and creative deals. So just to give you a quick example, we had a deal. Joe was very transparent with the seller. The seller wanted to get $270,000 for the property. It was a huge swing of the bat. But Joe said, look, we're going to get out to our network and we're going to see if we can pull the trigger for you. But setting expectations, we may have to cancel because the price might be too high. So we ended up finding a buyer. The buyer backed out last minute before depositing earnest money. So Joe and I sat down. I said, look, what if we do this? How much cash does the seller need right now? He's like, well, he needs about $25,000 to be able to move and have some cash in his pocket to Arizona. And then he's fine waiting on the additional equity. So I said, why don't we do this? Why don't we give him 25 grand, or why don't we give him $25,000, and we just say, hey, look, we're going to put your house in the market, we're going to clean it up, and we just have to make $20,000 for no matter what it sells for. And Joe was able to build such a good relationship with him. He's like, I trust you, Joe. I feel like you're going to do the best for me to try to get the most for my property on the open market. I'll take your deal. I'll take the $25,000, and you guys make your $20,000 profit. And that's after all expenses, so we would net $20,000. So it's been kind of a crazy process on that particular property, but Joe just set such good expectations that we've been able to structure a few other deals. But with the money we're allocating to projects like this, we just got another deal where we're going to be allocating about $40,000 to $50,000 on a sub 2. So basically, these people want us to help get them a certain amount of equity. So we're going to take over their property subject to the existing mortgage to bring it current. And then we're going to finish the rehab on the house, cover all expenses, and we're going to make $40,000 because we just set the tone like, hey, if this deal is going to work, the only way this deal works for us is that we need to make this certain amount because we've got so many other properties and projects we're looking at. And they said, okay. So like I said, that's after though we exhausted all efforts to try to get the home for as cheap as possible. It's a property that's in great shape. So Joe's really set a good expectation with the team and acquisitions to where we can get creative if we have to, but exhausting all efforts to get the property for as cheap as possible.
Yeah, so just to recap, I guess I really like what you said, even more than the fundamentals. I think it is just what sellers feel when we meet with them. It's kind of like Brett said, like we feel like we're their best option. We go into it with that approach, and so that integrity, that honesty, that authenticity, they feel that. And you want your team to embody that. And our reviews reflect that. So people will look at our reviews and everything, and they'll talk to us on the phone, and it's like they don't want to work with anybody else. Or even if they're getting 3 offers, they're calling us back. Hey guys, here's where you need to be, whatever else, and it does our job for us. So it's just, I think that's a really good point on the competitive advantage. So top 3 lessons that we've learned in our career. Number 1, I think mentorship's everything. People ask me why all the time, why did you do a Joe Homebuyer franchise? And I just tell them all the time, it's like, hey, time's your most valuable resource, right? So to me, it was like being able to join this group and just be able to get that mentorship and that coaching. And I look at the times in my life where my business has stalled or not succeeded, and it's because I was prideful. My ego, right? Or anything like that. And then it's like whenever I've tapped into Vance, to Cody, to Mark, to anybody here, and I actually want to get that mentorship, hey, somebody that is where I want to go, and I just need to get that coaching and get out of my head and not think of, hey, just because I've been successful in the past, just resting on that. So I'd say one thing is just leaning into mentorship, leaning into learning from everybody here, and the resources we have here is limitless. Either somebody has the answer, or they know somebody that can get you an answer for whatever you're dealing with. So I'd say that's one thing that was big for me is mentorship. The other thing I'd say is knowing your numbers, right? I remember one time I got on with Mark, and it was just like, hey, how many appointments, what's your opportunity to appointment ratio? And it was like 12%. It was like, there's your problem right there. And I've just, and there's other times I'm just like, oh, this part of the business is an issue now. It's like, okay, like how much are we spending on marketing? And then what's the average deal size in our market? And you start to figure out these things, and it really becomes really simple. You can almost kind of start to see a whole progression, right, of what's going on with your business as you know the numbers. And then the last thing I'd say is A players. We've been talking about it all week, but for us, we really have the approach of we're not hiring anything but A players because it's just going to cost us every single time. So to me, what's an A player? It's somebody that talent-wise is there, but also character and core values, somebody that aligns with those, and really just doing everything you can to hire off of that. Is there anything you'd add to those three things?
Well, I put SOPs are key for growth. I realized that the things that has brought me the most success has also brought me the most challenges and frustrations. And then partnering with somebody that's very detailed and has processes put in place, has had a team. So that's been a huge challenge for us, but to where it's also been, I feel like, very revealing of where our focus needs to be. And it's like, we have to have strong SOPs if we're going to scale our business and if we're going to bring on A players to be able to come off as and be good leaders. Because if we don't have processes in place and we're just running and gunning and just trying to figure things out along the way, you're going to lose the trust and the faith that your team members have in your leaders. So that was really big for me. I guess I talked about earlier, transparency and service to sellers. I don't think anybody does it better than Joe Darger, and so that's been a really cool process. I thought I did a good job at that, but man, it's been cool to see what Joe has done with that. And then in our business, follow up, I feel like is 2/3 of our business. Like, if you really want to generate significant revenue and if you're not continually following up with your sellers, especially in this market where everybody thinks their property's still worth a lot, you're missing out on a lot of revenue. So those are some of the lessons that I've learned. So,
yeah. Biggest failure or setback, I like how Chris got vulnerable. For me, I'll get vulnerable. I think I had a lot of success right when I got into this, when I bought a franchise from Mark. The market was just ripping and roaring, and I thought I couldn't lose. I thought I was the best business person. I thought I was so great at everything. Anything we put under contract, we'd get $30K offer, just wholesale everything, right? And what I was really good at was getting the contracts. So, I thought I was great at business. And then when the market shifted in Utah in 2022, I'd just say these last few years has been a series of learning a lot about myself through failure. And I just kind of, as I reflect, I've realized that for a long time, I was just kind of treading water. And again, I didn't realize it, but just assessing myself and looking at my views on life and my beliefs, and just realizing that I kind of had that, victim mindset or the scarcity mindset that you talk about, Mark. But now as I've kind of really kind of said, you know what, I'm going to be proactive regardless of whatever challenge I have, and really leaning into that. And again, going back to the mentorship, Mark and them put together this business coaching with EOS, and it's changed our lives. And I think I've literally seen myself, my predictive index was like Maverick when I started, and I just took it again as the captain. And to me, that shows myself kind of that evolution now, where it's like, okay, I'm not just a sales guy, I'm now evolving into running a business, right? Hiring A players, creating a culture with core values that is something where somebody wants to be there. Putting in SOPs, org chart, actually things that's going to take to actually scale a business from just me being a sales guy or self-employed for us to actually getting to a medium size and then a larger business in my mind, right? To a 10 million operation is our goal from, so I guess what I'm realizing is throughout this whole process, as I've looked back, my biggest failure has just been looking at my own mindset, and I think we all can attest to that. Our mindset is our biggest limitation in life. And I kind of had this thing like, oh, and the market shifts. And I didn't realize it was just kind of like this subconscious, like just kind of going into like playing to lose instead of playing to win. And it wasn't till, again, this mentorship and Mark and them put together this EOS thing. And I just went into it and I realized like, there's people that are just absolutely crushing it. The people in Louisville and just all over, right? All these people, the Mosses, and it's just like, you know what? Like, I just need to step up and get better, honestly. And so that's been my biggest learning. And now it's like, okay, cool. Now taking that, and I actually wouldn't change any of it. Sure, I lost money and I lost a lot of things, and I had to, it was a lot of humbling myself and things. But now I look back and I feel like everything that's happened the last few years has really set me up now to where we can build this $10 million, $12 million operation in the next 3 years and really scale because of a lot of this that's happened. So I guess that's my share is my biggest thing was just my mindset, and just rewiring that. What do you have to share on that?
Well, I think lack of organization for me, and lack of processes. Those two things have stunted my growth. I look back, like I said, we want to get rid of what we've been doing in the past and create something new today in order to build the organization we have. But what I've learned is that just because I can run a gun, because I can flip houses, like I've flipped a lot of houses that I've never even seen, leveraged great relationships. I've closed well over 100 wholesale deals the last 4 years, all virtually. I've done 30, 40, 50 plus $1,000 wholesale deals without even meeting the seller. I've done it all over the phone, which there's a lot of value in that, but it's not scalable. And so I realized that my ego got in the way of me trying to incorporate the right people in order to build the correct processes. Because I think you can be successful virtually in our business, but I think if you're trying to scale to a certain level, you need teams, you need people in place, particularly in person, in my opinion, after just partnering with Joe, to where these sellers and these people that you're working with, there's so much value in being in the living room with these people. So I realized where my ego got in the way in that instance. And so I've been grateful for the change and just that partnership with Joe to see that. So.
Yeah, and then marketing, vendors, and strategy. So right now we're doing PPC, direct mail, cold calling, texting, and PPL. A couple notes on that. I think I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, this vendor doesn't work or that doesn't work in my market." We all know this, but it's a game of inches. Like with my direct mail, I was sending out a check mailer, and we're one of the more competitive markets in the nation at 80 and 85%. And I was just like, man, I'm getting a few calls, few appointments, and not the deals I needed, and just upping that offer percentage from 85 to 87, 90% to get to have them call me first when they're getting 5 of those mailers in the mail. Like sometimes like marketing and everything we do is such a game of inches. So it's like, it's part of it is like looking in the mirror at yourself first and just saying like, am I managing the vendor correctly? Am I managing the leads correctly? And then part of it is the vendor, right? Because they change all the time and things too. So, but I just think the biggest thing is like being consistent if you're going to do marketing with the amount you're spending, and like looking in your market and saying, this is how much it's going to cost me to get a deal if I'm doing paid marketing. If you're doing referral, there's different metrics. But knowing your KPIs and saying, hey, this is how much it's going to cost me to get a deal, how much am I actually spending, and working it back. And you can see, am I spending enough? Is my acquisitions, my lead management, is that there? But I just think that so many people give up on whatever marketing channel. They want to try different things. We've heard this a million times, but for me, it's like sticking with them and just really dialing it in the details instead of just trying a different marketing channel and saying it doesn't work. So, and then I know we're running out of time, so we want to talk about it.
I'll be quick. Yeah, just meet with your vendors often, particularly with PPC and direct mail, see where you can make adjustments. So direct mail and PPC. The best ones. Yep.
And then what's our competitive advantage in our marketplace with acquisitions? We talked a little bit about it, but it's just the fundamentals that corporate teaches you. They work. If you follow that process to a T and you actually take on the core values that Joe Homebuyer teaches you, you will win. You absolutely will win. It's just the fundamentals. And then for us, we've been really great with speed to lead. We track our live answer rate. We got that from that. We're 100% every week. 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., we're always on call. We always have somebody to answer the phone, get to the leads in 30 seconds or less. We're following for anything incoming, we're trying to follow that best practice of that Brent Daniels put together, of hitting them 24 times in the first 24 hours. We want to make contact, 80% or greater, all those things, right? So speed to lead was there, but that's one thing that I think people have mentioned that we're trying to focus on more too, is creating KPIs for our team as a whole and each marketing channel and each acquisition manager for speed to lead, speed to appointment, all those things, right? So we're definitely not there being vulnerable too. Like we're like, oh, this game's evolving and things are evolving. We got to evolve with it. Speed to lead, speed to appointment, right? Those are things that are really big. The fundamentals, and then the other thing is just like finding people that match your core values again, because ultimately it's like Brett said, who you're being that's who they're going to want to work with. So if you combine all those with acquisitions, you're gonna win more than anybody else. And if you're spending more on marketing, committing to that, you're just getting more reps too. So that's another thing me and Devin have talked about. It's like, hey, we don't need this deal. Like we want to serve them, but we're not gonna chase something that's not a win-win, or that's not a good use of our time, because we're really adopting that mentality of the Mosses too. Like, hey, we're the people that everybody wants to work with, and we have less time than we have deals. So if you want to work with us, that's awesome. We're going to be honest with you. You're going to be honest with us, and let's find a win-win. Let's have the tough conversations right now, or, call us back later, go with that other offer. So that's anything else you add with that?
Use creative deal structures to leverage better cash offers.
Yeah.
Use it as a tool, and then if there's an equity issue or they just need a certain amount of money to walk away, and the creative structure is the last option, but it could be a potentially good deal. Kind of like when Chris talked about, like, hey, we're going to novate this property just because it's already in good shape, and the sellers are really they're like, you need a really cooperative seller. Novations are creative, so you are doing creative stuff, in my opinion. So if you're going to do those types of deal structures, make sure that you have the full trust and transparency of the seller, and that they're going to let you take the reins and just let you do what you need to do to get it done. If you cannot get it for a price, to wholesale and make for cash. So,
and I just say that ties into your dispo process. One thing we're working on is just like sales training, everything. It's like you got the dispo department, the sales department, and they're almost one with different numbers, but they're working together. They're strategizing. They're giving feedback. Hey, you could structure this deal. You could do this. The dispo manager is working with the sales manager and getting creative to win more deals. And then they know how hard each other's working, and it just brings everybody together. It brings higher assignments, better, fund rate, all of those things. So they go together.
And Vance brought it up. Let the sales manager or the owner, depending upon your operation, be the one that structures these deals. Don't let your acquisition managers try to get super creative. Like, I've been doing this for 10 years. So it's like, and I've done thousands of deals now. So I can do that. But our acquisition managers shouldn't be pitching these types of things. They can bring up, like, what if we got creative? Like, what if we gave you cash? So they can be very bullet point type discussions to try to bring it back to cash. And if they want to go the creative route, kick it back to the owner or sales manager, depending upon your organization, to let them structure it. So that's it.
That's phenomenal. We're
yeah.
going to go around for questions, and you guys can share that one.
Cool.
What questions do we have here? This is awesome.
I always get a lot of listening to you guys. I really appreciate y'all being on the calls. I've got a couple questions because you said some things that really struck with me. You said that you answer between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. 7 days a week within 30 seconds. How do you facilitate that? Because that's what drives me nuts, because I'm like, not to be crass, but I'm on the crapper at 6 o'clock at night. I'm not answering that call,
So the question was, hey, we say that we answer the phone 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and within 30 seconds or less, or 100%. So when I say that, like a live call, we're answering every time, and we're dang near 100% every week. And when I say 30 seconds or less, when an incoming web lead comes in, email, text notification. So yeah, I think everybody does this, but we have it set up text and email to all of our phones, and it rings to all of us. And then basically I have it set up now to route to our Slack as well. So it routes to Slack and email and text. So we go in there and we basically have set times that people are covering. Whoever is supposed to be covering, they go in and they reply immediately, calling web lead. The rest of us are there in a group chat. If we don't see that right away, one of us say, hey, what's going on? Do you need us to call? So we try to basically plan out our week to make time for that. And then, but it's just kind of an overall cultural thing of like, look, this is our priority. Like, I have a lead manager and he's really high level, and I used to make him stay in the office all day. But then he was burned out later days. So I was like, you know what? You come in at 8:30 every day, you leave at noon, but you're available when these leads come in. And that's just a priority that we've set, because we've gotten some of our biggest deals. Like, I got a 70K deal July 4th, 10 a.m. I've gotten, a 110K wholesale deal at 6:30 at night for a call. I've seen that happen. So to me, that's just kind of a culture and a standard. And then we try to build a process and try to plan our schedules around that and pay around that as well, and just our numbers and reporting. Does that answer that?
Yeah, yep. And second question that I have is, you said when you're utilizing creative deal structuring, that whoever your AQM is going to call you for that. Is that kind of like the same idea of like when you're out selling rainbow vacuum cleaners and you can't get them closed on the first thing you say, let me call the office? Is that how that works?
Yeah, so exactly, but we even want to take it a step further. What we're implementing as part of our daily numbers and metrics and just accountability with our sales guys is that they need to call the sales manager or me before every appointment, and we're going to go over it. And I've done it damn near 10 years, done it 1,000 times. We kind of know ahead of time what to look out for. I can say, hey, based off of this person, be careful that you might not get the authentic yes just with their personality type. Or, hey, maybe we send a contract to them, a blank contract to review, because they're that type of personality that's going to bring that up when it's time. So yes, it is stepping out and calling, but it is talking beforehand. It's stepping out if you need a call, and just kind of having that game plan to where they know they go in, this is our buy it now price, or our price that, hey, you want to get this done? Most of the time they won't go for it. If they do, great. Does that mean we're going to buy it necessarily? No, it just means we might put non-refundable earnest money to lock it up, and we know we're not going to lose on it, or at least it's a price where we're willing to roll on it. And if not, then it's like, okay, hey, you can't do that price. You're going to give us time and we can structure the deal. But yeah, to answer your question, it's like talking beforehand. It's being available during the appointment to step out, and just kind of trying to train over time. Like these are the types of deals that maybe, or situations where maybe the cash price right now doesn't work, where we can kind of pivot. And we don't have a clear process every time that they could just read it and say, hey, go. We're trying to get there, but it's just kind of like, that's what we're working on right now.
Just real quick, just a real quick example. We had a deal that Joe was actually, he was at home with the baby. So acquisition manager goes up to the appointment and they just weren't ready. They said they were, but Joe, they went to leave. And then Joe got on the phone with the acquisition manager, like, no, these people are ready. They're literally giving us all the pillars based on the feedback the acquisition manager is giving to Joe. So Joe said, go back. And then it was either that night or the next day, they went back to the appointment and they locked it up. And what was neat is they needed a guarantee close. So we gave the seller in that scenario, I didn't like it based on past experience, but Joe says we gave them $10,000 non-refundable, but we gave it to the seller because they had expenses and bills and things that need to be paid. And we ended up making $45,000 in that deal. And we were going up against a lot of other wholesalers. Corey Erdley had been working that deal for a year and a half. And he was pissed. Oh, he was so mad. And we got a great...
Cut the camera. I never thought how we got
Got you. I'm sure he'll say it. No, but just that ability to serve was amazing. Sorry.
And I did check, just one thing. We did check the title, but I had the title company do a search and make sure that they had at least a good idea that they had equity, and we knew the price really made sense. But I mean, that part of it was like literally we were chasing. Corey's been chasing him for a year. He was right there, and we was like, that's what pushed him over the edge. But just having all that available, and even more, I think important than that is just like whoever your acquisition person is, like you talking strategy with them. It's like you're going in with a set of eyes, a different set of eyes. We're snipers, in my opinion. It's like having somebody that can say, hey, look out for this, and even hold them accountable. And then the other thing that we're doing is recording our appointments as well, too, with that. The same recorder that Mike, sorry. I'm, if you guys have noticed, I'm not great at public speaking, but the general idea is that we're talking beforehand, we're recording them, we're dissecting them, and that whole process. But yeah, it's just, I guess the point I'm making to you, Bill, is that I think the biggest thing is just planning it with the sales manager or whoever is kind of high level beforehand, and just kind of helping them like know what to prepare for, know the price they want to get it for, know what to expect the unexpected, and here's all the different ways you can pivot and serve them. Hopefully that answers your question.
Can you give a really brief high-level example of what your org charts or teams were pre-partnership and now partnership, what your org chart or team looks like now?
Make it really simple. I had none, and Joe had all of it. So I just
Partner with someone that has it.
Exactly. So no, but honestly, like my systems, my numbers were just not super well organized. So Joe has been very good at spending a lot of time, particularly the last year and a half, on just building great numbers and things like that. And we're happy to share with you how it looks. And so basically with Florida, we just gathered all the data that I did have. It took some time. It was stressful and all that, but we just incorporated it to make sure that all the operations for South Florida and Utah are cohesive, and it's just run the exact same. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, but just
go ahead.
we can talk offline just more about the specifics of kind of our team members, what they're doing, and the role and stuff for our size, if that's helpful. But, yeah.
No worries. Got time for one more question here.
what's your name again?
Yeah, hey, is it Greg or
That guy in the back.
Gregorius? No,
Kevin Hart's partner.
Yeah, there you go.
Kevin Hart, Gregorius.
I like that. Can you guys talk about the pros and cons of being in a market that has multiple Joes?
Great question. Honestly, I see it more as pros, believe it or not. Like, I honestly, there's four of us, and collectively with the four Joes, I think we do more volume than anybody with wholesales and everything else are right up there. So I would have thought we'd run into each other quite a bit more, and that'd be a negative. We actually don't run into each other that much. It's really strange. Every once in a while we do, like that deal we mentioned, but I think the overall net positive that we're trying to look at is like getting together, sharing things, trying to build a brand, all those things, sharing our buyers list, et cetera, all these little things. So, yeah, I honestly think it's a big positive. I mean, to a certain extent, if there was more than the four, I'd be like, yeah, get out of here. But, I think it's great, honestly, overall is my perspective on it.
So, Mark, this probably may not be a good time to tell him we're going to 12 territories
Yeah.
in Utah. I'm just kidding.
Awesome.
Just kidding. Awesome. Let's give it up for Joe and Devin. This is awesome and phenomenal.